Danny, I'm a massive fan of Lin-Manuel Miranda. I think his work is terrific, not
Yeah.
only because of Hamilton. It's not really for me.
Mary Poppins. Mary Poppins, he was fantastic.
Yeah, the voice as good as Dick Van Dyke in Mary Poppins. So, I mean, there are Cockneys. Come to me for elocution, guys. But you know what? You went to Dick Van Dyke, who doesn't know Cockney, but 97, he can do what he likes. But I think Lin-Manuel Miranda is very talented. He was great in House. He was terrific in House. He was in season 6, very good. He wrote the songs in Moana, which is the best Disney film, bar none. Also in Canto. I've got some issues with the script, but I don't care what he says. We should talk about Bruno. It was long. I know it was long and torturous.
I was wondering where you're going.
It's a long and torturous intro, but I think we got there. It was a long walk. There was lots of sand dunes. It wasn't a mirage. There's water in the well. What on earth happened to Bruno Fernandes? Now, look, he is not a captain in any way, right? He's not someone that you would say to your children, for example, look up to this man's attitude. You would say supremely talented. You would say incredibly driven, all this good stuff. But a captain, a leader, an inspiration, that sort of stuff, in terms of his on-field personality, I don't know what he does for charity. I assume a lot. But on the field, always petulant, always whinging. I went to a Fulham game recently where him and Anthony had a row on the field.
Yeah.
Continually diving, continually whinging, all that sort of stuff, bad-mouthing people. But that's almost par for the course with Bruno Fernandes. This felt something different. This felt extraordinary. I was once at a game, West Ham against Bradford, and West Ham had Paolo Di Canio. Remember Paolo Di Canio?
Oh, yeah.
Lunatic player. And I mean that in all positive and negative ways. He was just mad. And in this game against Bradford, he kept getting penalty appeals turned down. This is pre-VAR. And every time he got one turned down, he would go, Mamma mia, Mamma mia. And I'm not doing a racism there. He quite literally used to say that. Or a xenophobism, whatever. I know we voted out, but I voted in. But he would do it during the game. And at one point during the game, he had another penalty appeal turned down. He goes over to Harry Redknapp, the manager, and he's like, take me off. Take me off. No more of this. My reputation has been besmirched. He stays on, scores a penalty, I think, afterwards, and West Ham win the game 5-4. Incredible game of football. But that was the only time I think I ever saw this. And there is the one where he gets beaten on United's left-hand side and just sort of gives up. There's the shove on the assistant referee, which apparently is going to get no further punishment, which I'm quite surprised about. There's the wandering about. There's the row on the field. There's the quite literally asking the manager to take him off. Some today, Dunny, suggest that he should be stripped of the Manchester United captaincy. He's not the captain. Maguire is the captain, but he never plays, so he kind of wears the armband despite, not being the captain. So they could quietly maybe strip it and say, well, look, he's not going to be temporary standing captain anymore quite easily. But what did you make to this, Danny? I mean, you played a lot of football. You've watched a lot of football in England, America, around the world. Talk to me about this meltdown on field for Bruno Fernandes and how it came to be, how he should deal with it, and how you would have dealt with it.
Yeah, the body language has always been an issue. Now, I'll start with, I think his appetite to win is extraordinarily high. I think his appetite to figure out ways to manipulate the game and win is extraordinarily high. But I'll call them antics, the antics that surround his game, right? If he takes a bump off the shoulder, he's grabbing the face. If he takes a slight knock, he's down and he's in pain, and you feel like, well, the medical staff has to come out, and next thing you know, he's up and he's wincing and he's walking it off. All of these things happen each and every game. And what we saw is nothing different than what we normally see. And when you're winning, you can get away with a majority of these things. I know a lot of Manchester United fans that don't like the antics, love the player, don't like the antics, don't like whatever else comes along, because it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't look right. But at the end of the day, you're right. He is an extraordinarily talented player who has an appetite to win everything. Now, when things go wrong, I think all of those antics get wrapped up into visually the eyeball test, really horrible, negative visuals for anybody involved. And in nights like that, when everything is going wrong, like I'm quite honestly surprised nobody turns to him and gives him the old, like at some point, as a teammate, you've got to get just exhausted by the constant moaning, So again, I know he's taking the brunt of this because of the histrionics, the visuals, the eyeball test of seeing him do this week in, week out. But, he's, I guess I give him credit afterwards. He's the captain. He steps in front of the camera on a night like that. He has to acknowledge what went wrong. He's a very different personality when he's in front of the camera and he's not between the white lines. So I'm trying as a former player to kind of see how that works. But yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough to swallow. It's something that when you talk about leadership, right, there's a couple boxes that need to be checked. And I think a lot of those qualities are there. But when we talk about like ultimate leaders, when we talk about ultimate captains, there's more of a presence that's not a moaning presence. It's a lead by example presence. It's not a Roddy Raw presence. It's the presence that lifts everybody up, grabs them by the shorts, doesn't allow games like this to get away. There's an accountability. Everybody looks towards him. And I think when you talk about Bruno, you're looking more on the offensive side of things to be that creator, be that leader. But I look at Casemiro, and a guy like that, even though on a poor night, is more of a, and I'm going to say this lightly, more of a captain leadership persona clarified than virtually anybody else on that roster.